Have you got a clear shot at winning this?
I'd always say yes, even if deep down.
If you listen to this episode without knowing Chris Fennell, you wouldn't guess that he stood on a national podium 22 times across 10, 25, 50 and 100 miles cycling time trial. 11 times of those were on the top step.
It's a self-inflicted pain. You can make it stop if you want to, or you can push through it and keep going. You have to really enjoy that individual pursuit of suffering.
Do you actually enjoy the suffering, or is it the sensation you get afterwards?
One thing that motivated me during a time trial, or pushed me to the end, was
He's ridden the second fastest 25-mile time trial in the UK, 44 minutes and 10 seconds. That's 55 kilometers per hour average. But none of that really came up in our chat, because that's not how Chris talks about performance and what he does.
you've got to enjoy the process before you get to that end result. As soon as you start enjoying it and you're disciplined, you don't need motivations. There's always someone better than you. And I think that's what I love about sport, is you can do everything but still get beaten.
He's very humble, and this conversation is much more about routine, consistency, his training mindset, how he approaches it as a sports scientist. Talking about doping here. What is doping? What do you think is the most overrated metric that people would use or swear by?
From my seat, it's a bit controversial, I suppose.
Let's get into it. C'est parti. Hello, Chris.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
How are you today?
Yeah, I'm not bad, thank you. Yourself?
Good. Chris, how would you introduce yourself as a human?
Wow. How would I introduce myself as a human? Blimey. God. I don't think that would be that hard to answer, to be honest with you. What am I suppose I'm someone who has quite extreme focus. As soon as I set my mind to something, of a challenge, a sport, a project, then that is my sort of everything at that point in time. So it was cycling beforehand. I suppose that was my identity for a very long time, Chris the cyclist. But not hate is quite a strong word, but I didn't like to identify as a cyclist, even though that was my, as I say, my whole being at that time, my focus. And I suppose now, moving over to triathlon, you could say, like I say, that is now my sole focus. So I am, I suppose, and want to be Chris the triathlete. And always alongside that, I have been Chris the academic, who has loved science, be it sports science, exercise physiology, neuromuscular physiology that I did for my PhD. And that was also another extreme focus of mine. I'm just, I suppose, super motivated by academia, really motivated by sport, cycling into triathlon. So I suppose that is Chris as a human, is the sporting, competitive side, the super focus on that. And then Chris, the academic, and I pursue that in a very similar way that I do my sport, trying to achieve the best I can in academia and the best I can in sport, I suppose. So yeah, it's Chris as a human being at this point in time, and I'd like to feel I'm, from a personality point of view, quite approachable, quite kind,
It summarizes what I know of you. So I'm glad to know that I kind of know you.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's good. You're saying about having this ability to focus and have a set goal and doing something, like explore it kind of fully. Do you ever wish sometimes that you were only one or the other, the scientist or the cyclists?
Oh, yeah, that's another challenge. I suppose sometimes. Sometimes I wish I could pursue one path. I suppose going back to purely focus on one aspect, be it academia or sport. The two really go quite well together. It would be, I've always said to myself, you've got to always have a fallback from something. Sport is a very fragile thing. You can only do it for so long. Not everyone makes it.
Yeah.
And, you can come into at any point in life. But I feel you've always got to have something alongside it. I think you need something to occupy your mind. You need something So you don't want your identity to be, I never wanted my identity to be purely a cyclist, which is why I really struggled to say that I identify as being, that's my identity as a human, as being a cyclist, and I could never do that. So I feel, I suppose in one way, you can always, with hindsight, go back and say, if I purely focused on sport, maybe, would it have taken me in a different direction? Would I have gone further? But, you can never look at it like that.
It doesn't sound like there's any regret there.
Oh, no, not at all. You can't. I think that's one thing I've always, more recently in the last few years, come to realise you can't look back and have regrets on things, even if you feel they are regrets at the time. You just got to move on, and you can't change it. So just move on and go full steam onto the next thing. And
when you talk about your time in cycling, as Chris the cyclist, it was a very particular discipline of cycling.
Yes.
It was time trialing, wasn't it? Which is, some people call it the ultimate test.
Yeah.
Because it's you, yourself, your machine, your bike, and you kind of have to suffer as much as you can until you get to the finish line. Yeah. Is that a fair description?
I think so, yes. That is absolutely correct.
So does that attract a particular type of people?
Yeah, I suppose it does. It does attract a particular individual, even though you do get a broad number of people taking part in it. But you have to really enjoy that individual pursuit of suffering, that individual pursuit of, performance. I think that what attracts people to it is you and the bike. The environmental conditions, of course, it's quite, some would say it's quite boring. Others, if you're really engrossed in it, is, from a scientific point of view, quite exciting.
Yeah.
And you look at all the little marginal gains, all the little things you can do to optimize your performance in it. So I think it does attract a particular kind of mindset. You got to enjoy being on your own. You got to enjoy the suffering. But that being said, when you do the sport, it's quite a niche sport, but you meet, people from all walks of life who pursue time trialing. So,
people say enjoying the suffering.
Yes.
It's like, you hear that a lot. Do you actually enjoy the suffering, or is it the sensation you get afterwards? Once you're done, you finish, that you've accomplished whatever you've just done.
I think I enjoy both.
Okay.
I always said to my, one thing that motivated me during a time trial or pushed me to the end was, the harder I push, the more it hurts now, the quicker I get to the end, so the quicker it's over. So I suppose there was I suppose a bit of a sadistic mindset there that the more I make myself suffer, the deeper I go, the quicker it's over. And I suppose I really enjoyed at that point in time, because I can suffer more than anyone else.
Yeah.
Of course, everyone's suffering is very different. Everyone's experience of pain is very different.
Yeah.
But I suppose that was just my psychology, my mindset that was like, if you suffer now and you then reap the rewards at the end potentially, if you don't push yourself now, then you're just letting yourself down. And that was the same in a race or in training. The more I suffer, that was my mindset. The more I suffer and the more pain I feel, the more it'll pay off at the end. And then obviously if you suffer, the more you suffer, the more that, feeling at the end was generally greater.
And I suppose it's suffer with a purpose, because, you're training, you're suffering, or you're racing and you're suffering in the race, but hopefully you want to win at the end.
Exactly.
It's not like suffering, like having a headache, and then you're thinking, I'm going to sit with this headache and not take a painkiller.
Yeah, it's very different.
Because I like suffering.
Yeah. No, it is a very different suffering. Yeah, with that self-inflicted suffering, that exercise pain you get is, it's different to having a headache or an injury type pain. It's a self-inflicted pain. You can make it stop if you want to, or you can push through it and keep going, which is, I think, is what draws people to time trialing. It draws people into endurance sports quite broadly. And again, you get it in every sport, but I suppose it's more well known that endurance sports, you do get that exercise pain that does attract people in a strange kind of way.
Is it something that you train, or does it have to already be there?
That's a good question. I think it's something that you have to probably have, but then you can train it as well. I think,
How?
I suppose initially you have to have that willingness to want to push yourself. So I suppose that's the bit you need initially. We always worked, when I worked with my sports psychologist. Well, I say sports psychologist, he was sort of a friend who sort of supported me in many ways, but his sort of area was more the psychological element of it. And we spoke, for hours on end before and after races, between races and seasons, about finding that next level, not being limited by your mind, which all comes back to pushing through that pain, not fearing it. And I suppose that's what you can train. You can learn that you can push through. You can learn that it's not limiting you. And again, there'll be people who argue that they're, you're going to still fatigue. Pain is not the ultimate limiter here. Your muscles will still stop you at some point, but you can train to endure it. So I say, come back to your question, you have to have something initially to want to do it.
Yeah.
And then the more you do it, the more resilient you get.
You train as much your physical abilities, your actual fitness, then you train your mental toughness.
Absolutely, yeah. So from my own experience, again, everyone's so different in their approaches they take. But what sort of got me through hard sessions, hard races, was just having different strategies, developing my own strategies, that sort of self-talk that I had, whether it was, I suppose, as you say, it was suffering with a purpose. I had a purpose. This is suffering for a reason. I've got to dig deep in this session because it's going to pay off, hopefully, when we get to the race in a few months' time. And then it was just having little mantras. It was like, sometimes just man up, get on with it. And I put it on everything. And anyone who does follow what I do is like, no excuses, just own it. Whatever happens, it happens. Everyone has good days, bad days. So it was, I suppose, the acceptance that doesn't matter what happens, go out, do your best, endure it. As long as you've given it everything in training and then into the race, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And if that means you win, that's awesome. If it means you come 10th, that's just as awesome.
Yeah.
You've done your best. You just got beaten by better people. And I just think it was just, this wasn't early on. This was later on in my cycling time.
Because it's hard not to compare yourself to everyone else, regardless of the output that you've...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I know early on I was always guilty of, I suppose, making excuses after races, but you begun to realise that if you do that, you just demean everyone around you, everyone who else is putting all that time.
You can only control what you put in. You can't control what everyone else is doing. So you might as well do your best and see what happens.
And just congratulate the people who beat you, because you know the work you've put in. So it is sport. And that's what I love about sport is you can do everything but still get beaten.
How does that export to other areas in your life? That mentality of just giving everything and, going through that suffering or the pain now so that it might be gratifying later.
I'm quite a patient person as well. I suppose working on studies, you're working on long projects, is you don't get the result instantly. So I suppose that's just the big thing that I would take from cycling training now into triathlon and across into academia and doing research is you're in it for the long game.
Yeah.
There's no instant result. You have to be patient and adaptable as well because things change. So,
if you transpose that to the scientific studies, it's on the long term, but then you're not always guaranteed to have results. Sometimes the results aren't even clear. So you're comfortable sitting with uncertainty. So you're comfortable sitting with uncertainty.
It's a difficult word to say.
Uncertainty.
That's uncertainty,
Uncertainty. Okay. Yeah. So you're comfortable sitting with uncertainty and in that gray area just for the long term and be patient.
Exactly. Yeah. So many things are uncertain, aren't they? And as we said a minute ago, nothing's guaranteed with sport. The result's not guaranteed. And exactly the same as you say with research and doing science is nothing's guaranteed. And I think that's what's exciting about it, because we wouldn't do it if we already knew.
Being an athlete and a sports scientist, when you are doing a triathlon or a time trial, you have to be, I guess, in tune with yourself. And sometimes you just go a little bit by feeling. Yeah. Sometimes, I guess, what your intuition tells you is not what the numbers and the data tell you. How do you choose which one to follow?
I always go to feel my intuition. It's a funny one because people always ask me, you know, how do you prescribe your training? How do you go about preparing for a race? And despite having that scientific background and exercise physiology background, when it came to cycling and came to racing, that sort of fell by the wayside sometimes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Which I probably shouldn't say too much. Obviously, I was always driven by data. I love data. I always did all the tests and had all the training zones and kept track of my training programs and always being self-coached.
Always been self-coached.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I had, people initially back in the early days, a good 12, 13 years ago. But yeah, in years I suppose you could say at my peak of time trialing, I was self-coached.
I guess that speaks to your ability to focus and push through the pain, because usually when you've got a coach, it's because you've got an external eye that helps you get to the next level and will help you push yourself further. But if you've already got that, then
I suppose it's just, it became second nature to me. I sort of knew myself, and I suppose it comes back to you were asking about the intuition. You sort of have that feeling, you know, if you're disciplined and motivated, like a lot of athletes are anyway, having that coach that gives you accountability, I suppose for myself wasn't necessary. I was always accountable to myself, and I suppose there are always days where you're having a good day or a bad day, and I just account for that. You'd know in the first few miles of a race how you're feeling, don't you? And then just adjust. Just if it's not happening, then you just ease off a bit and then accept that.
Yeah.
And there were other times where I would deliberately go out as way harder than I ever expected to be able to push.
I wouldn't expect any less from you, Chris.
Thank you. But yeah, I just thought, why theory? Or you don't want to limit yourself. And it's you know from the physiology, you know from the testing that's way beyond what's actually achievable for that duration. But why not just experiment and just see? Because it's only in a race situation that you can really truly push yourself to that limit.
True.
So you never know. You can always go out there and see, and the worst that can happen is you just don't really make it to the end to your full ability. I suppose that's another thing. It doesn't last forever, that suffering. So
it's a funny thing, because it almost feels like you know that you're going straight into a wall. Sometimes you know, I'm pushing myself way too hard. This is not sustainable, and you know the body is not like a machine. It's got its limits, but somehow within yourself, you're just hoping that wall is not there.
Exactly. Yes.
Even though you can see the wall, you know that you're going straight into it. You're like, I'm going to get there and the wall won't be there and I'll just be able to make it through. But obviously you just,
sometimes hit that wall. But again, that's what I love about sport. It doesn't matter what sport it is. I think it's just human performance is just pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't love watching athletes perform to their best ability? I think it's just super exciting, just seeing what human beings can actually do.
When you know what it feels like, obviously you appreciate it and you know what's going on.
Yeah, particularly when you see people way beyond your current ability.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, how'd you get to that next level? I think that's what drives everyone. Is there's always someone better than you.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing to always accept. Like, there's always going to be someone else who can swim, bike, run faster. Maybe not all three. You might be able to bike faster than some people, run faster, but I suppose that's what drives everyone. Is there's always someone better. If you accept that straight away, then you're in a good place, and then just go to your limits.
And also there's the fun in thinking that sometimes they're not physically better than you. It's just that they push themselves a bit harder.
Potentially, yeah.
You don't know which one it is.
No, that is very true.
Is it that they have a tougher brain or they're able to push themselves more, or is it that they're actually physically better?
Yeah, of course. I suppose, genetics come into it. People are predisposed to being particularly good at certain sports.
Yeah.
But then someone always told me that if a human's done it, then another human being can do it.
That's true.
I suppose it's not always possible because, you know, I'm never going to run 100 meters very fast. But I suppose it's just a good mindset to have. If you're pursuing something and you want to be good at it, then if you're going into it thinking I'm never going to beat anyone, there's, you know, you're not going to get as far as you want to. You've got to give it a try.
And I suppose sometimes it is good to be delusional about that wall because you don't know until you tried it. And you might hit the wall, but you might surprise yourself how far the wall was actually. Because maybe it wasn't as close as you thought it was. Yeah. We spoke about data.
Yes.
You know, sometimes the data, how you feel, they don't always match. And some people do swear by the data. It's always the excuse is, I don't know, I wasn't pushing enough power because, or I was,
can't stand that.
I was looking at my power meter and I was way above what I was supposed to do. So I decided to push a bit less. Like, you're in a race. Anyway, what do you think is the most overrated metric that people would use or swear by?
From my seat, it's a bit controversial, I suppose.
Come on, we're here for it.
So I never use heart rate.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's an overrated metric. I think everything has its place. And everyone has different approaches to training and racing. So I would never suggest you use one thing over another. I think everyone should just do what works for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never used heart rate in training or in racing.
Okay.
And again, I suppose that's rightly or wrongly. I just never liked to have that data on the screen because for me, it never changed anything. I'd ride to power and I'd know where the limit was.
Yeah.
And in training, I'd just ride to my power zones and the heart rate would be what it would be. I suppose outside of cycling, it's probably quite a useful metric in running and other sports. But yeah, when I was cycling, I never used heart rate and I still don't use heart rate.
I mean, with the caliber of athlete you are probably doing something right anyway.
I'd hope so. I think I've done a few things right. It's an interesting one. Heart rate is quite variable from day to day.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's wearing Whoop bands, other monitoring tools to look at heart rate variability, which I get, but I would never swear by it. You can become a slave to data.
Yeah.
You can have way too much data and you just go, I can't train today because I'm not recovered. Again, I suppose it's good initially to learn. It gives you insights. But if you become obsessed with the data, then it can sort of bog you down.
Yeah.
You need to become in tune with yourself and know, should I have a rest day today? Can I train today? And I know endurance athletes, you're always tired. So
yeah.
If you're eternally looking at what your watch was saying, I probably would never train.
Yeah.
So
true.
And back to heart rate, it changes. You know, on a race it could be 180, it could be 190 for the same power, and it would just get in my head. I think I'd be looking at it thinking, "Wow, heart's going to explode," but I'm feeling okay.
So now you are transitioning into triathlon, aren't you?
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that your exposure to triathlon started with the Sub-7 project?
It did, yeah.
So for those who don't know, Sub-7 project was... Actually, what was the Sub-7 project?
So the Sub-7, it was Sub-8 as well. So you had the male and female versions of the event was to, I suppose, bit like the sub 2 hour marathon with Kipchoge, and the Nike project was to break 7 hours for an Ironman. I think Christian had the record beforehand anyway. It was like 7 hours 20, I think.
Christian Blumenfeld,
yes. Because no one had ever gone below 7 hours for an Ironman distance. And for the women, no one had ever gone sub 8 hours for the Ironman distance. So the goal there was essentially to break that record by any means. So you're allowed drafting in the swim, you're allowed drafting on the bike, you're allowed external assistance that you're obviously not allowed in a normal triathlon or Ironman event. And it was a big media PR event. It was, I think, the Phoenix Foundation, a charity that supports children's sport, I think was also like the main driver of the event. It was the overall sort of sponsor of the event. So it had more beyond than just breaking a record, which was really cool.
So it wasn't going to be an official world record. It was just to see how far you could push it and
so it was, I suppose,
how fast you can go.
Yeah, how fast can you complete the Ironman distance? So that's what got me into triathlon, essentially.
And what was your role in that?
So in that event, I suppose I was quite lucky. I was a bike pacer. So this was sort of towards the end of my time trialing period. And I'd had a few really good seasons in the UK. And I was just invited by Matt Bottrell to be part of the team he was creating to support Christian. You're allowed 10 people on each team, and you could break that up however you wanted. So if you wanted to, you could have 10 swimmers to pace on the swim, or you could have 10 cyclists. But recall correctly, the biggest gains, of course, are to be made on the bike with drafting. On the swim, not so much, even though you do get a good bit of drafting if you can hold the feet quite well. And of course, on the run, I suppose it's more pacing and just having a person to focus on. So the final breakdown was 1 swimmer, 8 cyclists, and 1 runner for Christian. It was a race as well, so both male and female had 2 athletes. So initially, it was meant to be Christian against Alistair Brownlee, but I think Alistair had injuries or illness, so ended up being Christian against Joe Skipper. And it was a close race in the end. I think it was only a few minutes in it. Everyone went sub 7, everyone went sub 8 in the women's event.
I watched it live and it was quite impressive.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Especially on the bike. And I was trying to get a sense of the effort required to be in that baseline. Because you're thinking, you're in a baseline, so you're drafting people, so it's a bit easier on you. But when you're at the front, to maintain that sort of speed, it has to be hard.
Yes.
Like, it's got to be something really special. And also, you're doing it for a few hours.
Exactly, yeah. And the whole aim, I suppose, essentially is to get Christian to the run as fast as possible, but also with legs
as fresh as
possible.
Yeah.
Because there's no point in everyone just going hell with the leather, absolutely caning the bike, and Christian's having to push ridiculous power still. Because even sitting at the back, he was still doing his Ironman power. He wasn't getting a free ride. He was still pushing as hard as he would if he was on his own. It was just at a much faster speed. Yeah. I think we're doing 53 kilometers an hour or over 33 miles an hour average. So it's fast.
That's crazy fast. Yeah,
it is fast. The satisfaction of performing though is far greater. That team effort was the buzz. I've never had anything like it. That team performance was far beyond anything I'd experienced doing my own individual performance, because I suppose you're achieving something as a team, which is something I've never had before. It was harder than normal time trial because at the front you're pushing higher power, you drop into the line, you're still pushing quite high wattage. I don't think I dropped below 280, 300 watts.
Whoa.
So it was hard.
Your ability to focus on something helps because you can zone out when you're in an individual time trial. When it gets really hard, you just kind of disconnect and you just focus on your efforts. Sometimes you're not even going straight because you can use pretty much the whole road. Yeah. Whereas here you can't. Here you have to stay focused.
It had to be. We did have a lot of practice with Christian as well, and I suppose just seeing his work ethic and how he trained and approached triathlon was sort of what got me hooked on triathlon. After I was like, wow, I've just got to give this a go. Yeah. Because it was just, we absolutely emptied ourselves and then watched him run a 2-hour 30 marathon. I was like, how's this guy doing this? How has he just swam, sat and done that effort on the bike and then gone and run that fast? So it sort of blew my mind. I was like, from that point on, I did the rest of the 2022 season time trialing and then was like, I'm going to have to switch. I'm going to have to, this is the point. If I leave it too late, then I'm not going to be able to perform how I want to perform. You get older. And you can still perform when you're older, but I want to see what I can do now. So made that switch in 2023 to start training for triathlon.
Okay.
All because of sub-7.
Yeah.
All because of the Norwegians. Yeah.
I was wondering, do you have any vivid memory from being in that baseline?
Not super specific. I think with those sorts of things, it all becomes a bit of a blur.
Yeah.
Even though it was over 3 hours of effort, it just goes like that. It goes in a flash. But I think it was more just the whole build-up was just amazing. It wasn't just one point in time. It was the whole experience, that team endeavour to deliver one person to that point in the event. You're so focused on making sure you don't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
You do get into a flow and you do become relaxed when you're doing that, but you are still very focused. And I think it just got to the point where it just went so quickly. You can't really pinpoint a one moment, but just the whole thing was just awesome.
You saw pointy end, I guess, of the sport. That was like elite.
Yeah.
And then you started triathlon, which I suppose you're glad you did, because now you're an age group world champion.
It's not a bad start.
Yeah. Congratulations on your recent win.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise. Quite nice.
That's pretty cool.
Caveat, it is age group world champion. It's still nice to have, but it is, a bit of a surprise.
So when you stood on the start line, if someone asked you, like in an honest, because sometimes you can be very modest and be, I'll try my best. But if someone asked you at the start, have you got a clear shot at winning this? What would you say?
I'd always say yes. Even if deep down, if I had to be brutally honest, I'd most of the time probably say no. But you always have to stand on the start line and think you're going to win.
I like that.
Regardless, even if they'd picked me up and put me into the pro field at that race, I probably would have still stood on the start line and said, yes, I can win. Even though I knew I'd have been way, way behind.
That's good. Yeah.
You have to. Otherwise, you've already lost.
I can sense with you anyway. It's not just words. It's like you behave that way as well. You're thinking, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to try.
Because otherwise you're already limiting yourself. You got to be positive, excited and confident. Even though I'm probably not the most confident person, but you got to just channel that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you do have bigger goals in mind, then if you're already thinking, no, I can't win at this race, and going forward to bigger competitions, and you're just already beating yourself. If you're halfway around and you're suffering and it's not going great, you need something to drive you, and you think, if there's a chance I can win, if there's a chance I can do well, then you're going to keep going, keep pushing. If you're standing there before you've even started going, no, I'm not going to win.
Yeah.
Which potentially, only one person can win. So it's a small chance. But you've got to tell yourself that regardless. It doesn't matter what field or competitions like, you've got to tell yourself that.
Did you look at the field and see who's there?
No.
What they've done before?
No.
You just
probably it depends. When I was time trialing, I would look. Not that you can change anything.
No.
Whoever turns up, and you just have to race the field on that day. But I'm so new to triathlon, I didn't really know who people were anyway.
Okay.
So no, I didn't look. Well, I looked at the start sheet, but I didn't know any of the names anyway. So their past performances, you just got to go and race your race.
Yeah.
And most of them, as you know, you're not racing the people around you anyway. The person in your age group or the overall is somewhere else on the course because you start at different times. So I think that's what I like about it to a certain extent. It's you, and you just got to go for it full gas. There's no strategy at all.
Anything in particular you want to pursue in triathlon now?
Obviously, it'd be cool to try and race professionally. I'm under no illusion it's not going to be easy. Got loads I need to improve if I want to be at that level. But I think it's quite accessible. I think it's no reason why not going back. If people are doing it, people are professionals, so why can't you go and sort of pursue that? So I suppose that is my next goal. I'm not going to lie. I would like to try and get a pro license and race in pro races.
Professionally,
But I know I've got lots of things I say to improve to make that possible. So this year coming up I've got to improve my swim.
Okay.
I've got to, my bike's pretty good, but
Oh, I saw actually during that race in Qatar, the T100, you had the fastest bike split in the age group race, didn't you?
Luckily, I had a good bike. That's what won it for me, I think, in the end. It was my bike, because my swim, under no illusion, if I want to race professionally, my swim needs to come on like massively. I'm hemorrhaging ridiculous amounts of time, but having never swum before, starting triathlon, so I'm like left behind. And in age group, you know, you can make it up on the bike and run if you've got a good bike, but you can't do that in pro fields if you want to be in the mix or in a top 10 position. So that is my goal.
Yeah,
to see where I can take it.
I really like that mentality, though. It's never too late to get started.
Exactly.
It's true with most things in life.
Exactly.
If you want it, you just have to try. Obviously, you know, sometimes you can be a bit delusional, but it's important. Yeah. It's important to, you know, dream big.
Exactly. And as I said earlier on, you've got to respect people who do pursue things and leave things by the side to go and pursue a certain thing that may not bring you huge wealth or certain things that people value or all that material stuff, but it's pursuing something that you really want to do. And I respect that. And everyone has their own ways to approach things. And if mine now is to go and pursue triathlon, which some people might think is a bit delusional, some people may think, pursue your academic side and go down that usual path of career progression. I'm like, yeah, you can do that, but I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I will keep in the academic, the science, do that stuff as well. But again, I just got to, as we're saying, got to pursue it and see where I can take it when the opportunity is given.
Yeah.
I suppose I'm privileged to have that opportunity now to try. I've still got a few years left, so do it now. And
no regrets later.
No regrets later on, because we may hit the wall and it doesn't materialize. You can fail, but that's fine.
But at least you tried.
Exactly.
You can only be happy that you tried and that you gave it your all. You know, when I asked you at the start how you would introduce yourself as a human, you said about Chris the cyclist, Chris the triathlete, Chris the scientist, and in all those areas, obviously you experience disappointment.
Yes.
So that's kind of how you identify or how you present yourself. But if that's who you are, and sometimes you experience disappointment within those things, there must be something else that keeps you grounded or that helps you put things into perspective so that you can get over it. What is that for you?
I suppose I'm quite a simple person, I suppose, in that respect. I suppose it's just being happy with who you are and what you're doing.
Okay.
Even if there is failure in that pursuit, be it cycling, triathlon, academia, anything, it doesn't matter what it is, just being happy existing.
Yeah. Being happy, okay.
Also, again, I suppose you've got friends, family, those things that ground you. There is far worse positions to be in. So even if you have had a bad day testing in the lab, had a bad day training, doesn't mean anything really. As brutal as it is, you know, those things are important. The studies are quite important. Yeah. Personally, the races are quite important, but you're still going to wake up the next morning going deep again. You need to be a person where you can just, if all you have is the clothes you're in, you can stand there and be happy as the person you are and be confident as the person you are, then I suppose that's something that grounds you. Knowing if tomorrow you said to me you can't do triathlon anymore, or you said you can't pursue that career in academia or science anymore, I think you still got to be happy.
So what makes you happy then? You're not allowed to say training.
Oh, that probably would have been my third thing.
You're not allowed to say research.
No. Food, coffee, the simple things.
Yeah.
I think very much like the answer. The other question is just the simple things. Again, I've been guilty of getting that focus, being very set in my ways, but I suppose more recently being more flexible, saying yes to more things. That's probably made me more happy than I was in the past.
So coming back on that subject of performance, you know, we're talking earlier about the sub-7, sub-8 project, where the goal was to kind of bend the rules a little bit and see how fast you can complete the distance. But some people want to play with the normal rules and then play, I guess, in a not so fair way.
Yeah.
Talking about doping here. Yeah. What is doping?
I suppose doping quite simply is taking something that unfairly enhances your performance beyond what is natural. I'm sure there's a proper dictionary definition of it, but I suppose, it is taking something that allows you to perform, train, recover in a way that is not natural and gains an advantage unfairly against your opponents. And that can be done in a variety of ways. And I suppose we've got UK anti-doping, WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, that obviously monitor and cover these things and have their banned list. And athletes of different levels within Olympic sports, non-Olympic sports are monitored, and samples are taken to make sure people are not taking banned substances that gain performance. And there's lots of different substances. I'm sure we could get the list up. I was looking through the ban list, the monitoring list recently, and it's extensive, and everyone has to compete on a level playing field. Doping is obviously not a great thing, not a good thing, and needs to be out of sport, because you want to be watching clean sport where the person who wins has done it fairly and has trained and committed time to win. And if the people winning or people doing well have done it using doping, then that just destroys sport, doesn't it, really?
So there's that list of banned substances and methods that's published and available from the World Anti-Doping Agency. You've contributed to the addition of one of those to the list.
That's it,
Tramadol.
Yeah.
What is tramadol? What does it do?
So tramadol is essentially acting synthetic opioid. So it's essentially, quite simply, works by blocking the mu receptors in the brain. So basically pain receptors, or if you want for a simple explanation, it blocks those pain receptors, which basically, I suppose, as we were talking earlier, exercise-induced pain. If you can sort of suppress that, potentially you can perform push a bit deeper, go a bit further. But then I suppose it doesn't stop you from fatiguing. So it's not, you can stop pain, but they're still limited.
Yeah, there's still your physical abilities at the end.
It obviously had some effects before our research, because it was quite widely used in cycling circles, quite well known to be used, and essentially why it was put on WADA's monitoring list. I suppose if in cycling, quite common injuries are broken collarbone from a crash, and a lot of cyclists get given it after operation or pre-operative to reduce that pain. But because it is an opioid, it is addictive. So there was lots of concerns about tramadol, not just from a performance enhancement point of view, but from a health perspective.
Okay. From
a safety perspective, you're taking a lot of tramadol. It has a lot of side effects, like many substances do. But if you're taking this substance on a bike, depending on your dosage, of course, whether it's acute, chronic dosing of tramadol, it can affect your motor control, your coordination, your ability to handle the bike, essentially, which is, if you're looking at bunch racing, road racing, where it was quite prevalent in past years, it could cause crashes. So I suppose that was a concern.
Yeah.
As well as from an ethical point of view, if this does confer a performance enhancement, should you really be using it? Essentially leads into the research that we did at the University of Kent. So it was led by Professor Lex Major. And then essentially that research and its findings were used in conjunction with lots of other data, of course. They wouldn't ban something just on one piece of evidence. So that was a few other studies that were conducted.
And what was the finding then from your research? Because your question was,
does tramadol enhance, in this case, quite specifically, 40-kilometre time trial performance? So this was purely based on the bike. One of the best ways to look at performance, you want someone to push as hard as they can, and then we compare the two conditions. Do they perform better on the tramadol, or do they perform better on the placebo? We ended up with a sample size calculation, I think was for 27 people. We recruited that amount, but in the actual analysis afterwards, I believe we analysed 25 samples, purely because I think for side effects and an outlier, which can come from, just variation. You're testing human beings, and you don't have a good day every day.
Humans are not robots.
Exactly. So we endeavoured to get 27, but we ended up with 25 in the analysis. And essentially it did show a performance enhancement. So compared to placebo, we found a 1.3% improvement in terms of performance time, which statistically was significant. And again, there is individual variation there. Some people perform considerably better on tramadol. Other people, it was a marginal difference. But I suppose because of the sample size, you can't really go into the nitty-gritty detail of individuals because, you'd need a greater sample size, I suppose, essentially to look at responders, non-responders, individual responses. So essentially we concluded that tramadol led to a performance enhancement. So I suppose, that result for WADA contributed to all the other evidence that they're collated and led them to place tramadol on their banned list for in-competition use at that point in time. I believe most recently it has been now placed on out-of-competition use.
Okay.
But then, again, I'm not sure. There may be sort of caveats to that. Of course, if you've had a severe injury or you need pain relief, then you would imagine you could still take tramadol for that. But of course, you wouldn't be allowed to use it to confer enhancement if that's in training.
Yeah.
If it allows you to push a bit harder or train a bit harder than.
Yeah.
And again, everyone responds differently. I think that's the thing with these particular narcotics is, you could potentially take it to try and get a performance enhancements, but for some people, the side effects are so great that you're probably at a disadvantage to take them if you're nauseous or vomiting. There's a variety of quite common side effects. So, you can think you're taking it to, be able to ride faster or run faster, but actually the negative effects outweigh the advantage they potentially give you from that pain relief. So
it's interesting though that the WADA then, because you said about, obviously the performance enhancing side of it, but then there's also the addictive sides.
Yes.
And then the fact that it impairs your ability to handle your bike. So I guess banned substances are not only for performance enhancement or not, they're also about safety. At the moment, there is other substances, I guess, that you are studying.
Yeah.
And I suppose you can't talk too much about it because the study is still ongoing. But can you say...
Yeah, we can, I suppose, So from tramadol being banned, people are always going to look for the next thing, aren't they? I suppose that is sport, and that's sports where there is money is quite a big thing, winning. So in cycling, once tramadol was banned, and they'll probably been used before, but I suppose it became more prevalent. You had these other painkillers of similar design, synthetic opioids that work in exactly the same way. So in the current study, we're looking at dihydrocodeine, similar strength to tramadol, and then tapentadol, which is a slightly stronger painkiller. So the same design, 40-kilometre time trials. Do these painkillers enhance performance compared to a placebo in a trained group of cyclists?
When will you have the results for that?
So we're just coming to the end of the study now. So it's been a 1-year project, so we've got a few months left. So being the main researcher in the lab collecting the data, I'm completely blinded as well, being a double-blind design. So while I've seen the results come in, I have no idea if that's been the placebo condition or the tapentadol condition.
Why do you care? Because if you are involved in those studies, you have to care at least a little bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You can't just run them because you've been hired, because you're in academia. You have to want to be there.
Oh, absolutely.
So why do you care?
I suppose being competitive myself, you want to be performing in a clean, fair environment. You don't want to be competing against someone who is trying to gain an advantage against you and everyone else in an unfair way. So I suppose that's a huge part of it. Maybe I wouldn't care so much if I wasn't a competitive athlete myself. I suppose more broadly, be able to contribute to clean sport and contribute to safe sport, because I suppose that's part of it. I think when we published the tramadol study and the study contributed, even in the smallest way, to tramadol being placed on the ban list, it was quite a nice bit of satisfaction. You don't do it for that, of course.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is just work. You just go and you're doing the work. But I suppose having a good race result, having a good outcome to a bit of research is always, you can't deny, it's always quite satisfying. Yeah, exactly.
Is it possible to study performance enhancement and be objective about it? Or do you need to have some level of like for or against it?
I suppose I've remained quite neutral. I think I'm quite good at being neutral about things anyway. I sort of, not to sit on the fence, but I suppose take a holistic view. I take a broad view. I don't initially go into one camp or the other. Obviously, I'm against taking drugs to gain performance enhancement, but as with the study we're doing at the moment, you know, we expect there to probably be an effect, but we don't know. And again, even though you'd like to try and contribute to clean sport and have substances banned, you can't think like that. You've got to stay neutral. You've got to think, do the research, and the results will speak for themselves.
And do you think we'll ever get to that point of clean sport?
I'd like to think we could, but probably not. I think when you're weighing up the risk reward, when you look at the money involved in sports these days, there's always going to be people seeking an advantage. And whether that's within the boundaries of the rules at that point in time, you know, for example, what we're looking at the moment with these painkillers, it's well within the rules to use them. Mm-hmm. So, you know, potentially someone could be using them to gain an advantage, but that is within the rules. And I suppose you could say, you know, they're taking a painkiller to gain an advantage, but it's not doping, illegal doping, so to speak. You'd like to think watching cycling now, watching endurance sports now, it is clean. And with the amount of testing there is, I'd imagine everyone is clean. I think it's just things fall under the radar.
Yeah.
And there's always developments. But a lot of the performance we're seeing now comes down to new technology, better nutrition, better knowledge, better science.
Yeah.
That's why we're seeing amazing performances. Things have come on so much, even in the short time that I've been watching sports and taking part in sports. It's night and day, really. And that's why people are going so much faster. That's why records are being broken. That's why from the era of really big doping in cycling, that's why those records are going, because humans are able to perform without drugs. Yeah, you're always going to get skeptics, but I'll keep an open mind until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, oh, they're doping because they're doing ridiculous performances. It's like, maybe they're just that good. I think you've got to be open-minded about it.
That's one fact I have in mind, is that when people are tested, you usually get around 1 to 2% of those tests that are being positive, that, you know, the people that get caught. There's a recent study that came, I think it was 2022 from a UK doping agency, and it was interrogating basically athletes, GB athletes. There was 800-ish of them, and they've been asked if they had used prohibited substances. I can't remember how they do it, but basically it's a randomized thing, and you don't know who answered, so their identity is concealed. Yeah. So they can answer freely. I mean, they can decide to lie if they want, but no one would lie about doping. Like, if you lie, you would say that I didn't dope, whereas you had. You wouldn't
it's an interesting
not
one, isn't
dope
it?
And say that you actually dope. You wouldn't lie that way. No, but anyway, there was 13% of GB athletes from those that have been interviewed anyway. 13% of those have admitted. It's a very clear question. Have you used banned substances within the last however many years that was? And it was very short. It was leading up to the Paris Olympics. 13% of those said, yeah. And it's the same in 2011 at the World Championship, you know, the athletics World Championships. That was 40% of those athletes interviewed that admitted to using banned substances within the last 12 months.
Wow.
That's a big proportion compared to the number of people that get caught. So even though, I mean, there is a lot of testing going on and techniques are pretty advanced, the dopers are almost one step ahead, always. And I'm very much on the optimistic side, and I'd like to think that sport is getting cleaner. But seeing stats like this obviously makes me wonder. I don't know. I don't know where to sit.
It is a difficult one. Yeah, I wasn't completely familiar with those figures, but it's quite shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
That many people would have admitted to taking banned and performance enhancing substances, whether in or out of competition. You're fooling yourself more than anyone else. The risk is so high if you're caught that the fall from grace is quite huge.
Yeah.
But then maybe the egos of people who are willing to take drugs, it doesn't matter too much if they're caught or not. Maybe that thrill of the chase that they can get away with it is what they're after, rather than the actual results and proper results. Yeah, it's crazy to hear those stats, isn't it, really?
I'll send you the article. I heard about it in a podcast maybe a couple of months ago. Yeah. So I looked into it because it sounded like, I don't know, a clickbait thing that someone would say on a podcast. Yeah. Once you look it up,
wow,
that's that's actually true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's astonishing. But I guess it also depends on maybe that's your way out of poverty. Maybe that's, how you would earn money to feed your family or just make it in life. Then, if you cheat and you win, it's good. If you cheat and you lose, so what? You just find another way to make it, I guess.
Again, you've got to consider people's situations, haven't you?
Yeah.
I don't want to sit on the side of advocating it, but you have got to think, why? What is the reasoning behind it?
Yeah.
You can't just be instant like, that's completely wrong. You fooled yourself. You cheated yourself. You cheated everyone. But I think you got to look at that person's situation maybe more broadly. But that being said, it's still not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But you make a fair point. I'd completely agree with you. If that's your only way, why wouldn't you? It's like anything, isn't it?
Yeah. You shouldn't be forgiven for that.
No, not
at all.
No, not at all. Because there's far more people in the same situation who wouldn't do that, and then you're cheating them as well because they're trying to achieve perhaps the same thing, but doing it properly.
So, obviously doping, there are rules which you should play with, and there's a rule book. You should stick to the rule and stay within the boundaries. But just like we have for sub 7, sub 8, for example, where there's a specific event or competition where we have new rules, we allow some different things.
Yeah.
And then, you're able to play with those new rules and make it happen. Here, some people have this project, the enhanced games.
Yes.
Where they're saying it's so... it's new rules. The new rule is you can dope as much as you want. And we want to see what's possible. How far can we go and see what's humanly possible? What do you make of that? And I'm curious to hear if they are different anyway. Your opinion as a sports scientist and your opinion as an athlete. If they are not the same.
I suppose I take a few views on this. And again, I'm quite neutral in terms of my perspective, and I know people will take firm positions on whether the enhanced games are right or wrong. I think from a science point of view and a science experiment point of view, it's quite interesting. What can humans do with full enhancement of these particular drugs or whatever they may use for their enhancement? But then on the other side of that point, I do find it far more interesting to see what humans can do naturally and properly. That's far more interesting from my view. What can humans do as humans without synthetic enhancement? But I can understand people, enhanced games. What can we do with everything?
Yeah.
Which could be quite interesting, and obviously is interesting enough for people to put money into it. From an athlete point of view, I can understand it because there's, again, risk reward. There's lots of money I see pumped into this if you break a record. So why wouldn't you? If you're an athlete in many sports, even Olympic sports, you don't make much money unless you're that top few percent.
Yeah.
With big endorsements, you can win Olympic gold, but you're not making life-changing money that you can retire from. So I can understand it from that point, that if someone's going to ask you, take some drugs, do some good performances, and you get a lot of money, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And I suppose the perspective of, does it set a good example to athletes, to young athletes? But then again, everyone is entitled to do what they want to do. And if they've set it within defined rules, they're not doing it in normal competition, they're doing it in their own setting. So they're entitled to go and do that. And if someone says, oh, then you're going to skew young athletes' perceptions of sport and they can go and dope and make lots of money, I'd say, as soon as you're, I suppose, you're an athlete, you got your own thoughts, your own decisions.
I suppose it's for young athletes anyway that haven't had their mentality or their mindset about training set just yet. It's like, it's still very much malleable. Is malleable a word in English?
Yes, it's malleable, yeah.
It's still very much malleable. And there's going to be media, there's going to be, loads of coverage and communication about it. And it's going to be like, look at this, that's pretty cool, that's flashy, that's amazing. And I guess it kind of romanticizes doping and enhancement. And even though they know it's bad, you shouldn't do it in everyday life, it kind of becomes less of a big deal.
Yes, that is very true. And I completely accept that point of view. I think that's a good argument against it. But then everyone's free thinking, it's a free world, and there's probably far worse things we're exposed to than enhanced athletes competing and taking drugs. And I find it interesting in one respect, but then, I don't think it's going to take off. So I would hope that younger people would watch the Olympics and be inspired by that, rather than watching something that's on the periphery there's not going to be enough athletes that are going to take part to make it a big thing. But we'll see. We'll see what it comes to.
Although there's more and more big names now that are being signed up. Like Fred Curley for the track.
Okay.
Got I think it was Ben Proud.
Oh, for the swimming.
Yeah.
I suppose money draws you in,
exactly,
like anything. Someone said to me, here's £1 million, do this for a little while and, go and perform. It's a hard proposition to turn down, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rightly or wrongly, I would like most people will probably go, yeah, why not? If you again, you got the health aspect, what the long-term risks, but that weighing up that risk reward of, is it worth £1 million if you're successful? I think for a lot of people it probably would be, if you're coming from a background where you've spent years trying to, in most all these cases, be in the top of their game, and perhaps the reward is not monetary.
Yeah.
And now someone's offering you a monetary reward to do what you've done for so long. Why wouldn't you
take it? Yeah.
So that's another perspective to take. But it's still not. I still don't agree with it. I suppose my base opinion would be it's not the right thing to do.
I was gonna say they're not killing anyone, but you should.
Don't know that is a risk. But then the athletes signed up to it. They're free thinking, aren't they? So it's their choice. And no one's forced. Well, I'd like to think no one's forced them to do it.
Because most of those things, they are not really well documented, are they? Because you're pushing the boundary, first of all, within, I guess, the substances you're using, but also how they interact with each other. It's not very well documented. No. It's a full-on risk.
Hugely. I suppose, it is your own little experiment, isn't it? How far can you push it? And as you say, who knows the risks? Everyone responds differently to these things. And if you're combining drug taking with extreme training regimes and all sorts, anything can happen. I suppose you'd had back in the day, cyclists were just dying in their sleep. So I don't think it's going to take off anyway. So I think we're all good on that front. I think the Olympics is so well established, isn't it? It's like the pinnacle of all sports that are involved in it, that, I don't think the enhanced games is going to get anywhere close. So I think we're okay.
So for someone who is not chasing sport excellence or the Olympics or, you know, that top 1%. They are not chasing that, but still, maybe they want to do something extraordinary. They have an extraordinary idea. What would you tell them for them to start pursuing that?
I suppose you just got to enjoy it, haven't you? There's no point in going and doing something willingly if you're not going to enjoy the process of it. And I think that's what I've always had, is I just love the process. Last year when I didn't race, I still trained. And I think even if I wasn't going to race this year, I'd still train. You've got to enjoy the process before you get to that end result. As soon as you start enjoying it and you're disciplined, you don't need motivation. So that'd be my advice.
If you enjoy the process and you stick to it, you're probably going to get to that end goal, like you say,
Exactly.
and you're going to give it your all, which is what matters anyway. At the end of the day, it's what's important, that you give it your all.
Exactly, and don't compare. Like, everyone's guilty of comparing to everyone else in this day and age. Like, again, social media is great and bad at the same time, isn't it? But yeah, if you're starting out, or even at any point, there's no point in comparing to the best people. Again, that's something to aspire to. It's cool to watch them and see what they can do, because you know that is the pinnacle of where you could potentially get to if you've got that potential. But just don't compare to anyone at any point. Because like, it's just quite depressing sometimes, isn't it? And you get into a cycle and you're like, this is not achievable, and then makes the process so much harder. So just focus on yourself and do your own thing. Enjoy it, and find people who do the same thing and enjoy it, or have the same mindset. It doesn't have to be the same sport, just that mindset, and surround your people with mindset that you have.
That's great advice. Find the enjoyment in your process. Do your own thing. Don't compare yourself.
Exactly.
And give it your all.
And things seem to fall into place then. And if they don't, then you move past it and don't dwell on it. But yeah, I'm not perfect by any means. I still say these things, but probably don't always live by them. But I think that's the same for everyone, I think. So
it is normal. No one's perfect. And that's why we're all humans. And that's why we're all ordinary humans, not extraordinary superheroes.
Exactly, yeah. Even the best in the world are still humans. And and that's why I don't get the people who criticize. Like, go out and do it. Don't sit there and criticize, because at least they're going at it. Even if they fail, they're humans, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah.
You're not going to perform every day, and there's going to be a point where you can't perform, and then the trajectory is only down, unfortunately. Go at it. If you're sitting there thinking, why aren't they performing? Why aren't they doing better? Go and do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
go and do what they're doing, and then you might change your perspective and stop criticizing what someone's doing. And then A
closing question for you, Chris. When you find yourself daydreaming, what does your mind drift to?
Oh, wow. So this is a funny one. A lot of the time, I suppose, nothing. It's a funny one, because everyone asks me, like, what do I do when I'm on the turbo or like on a treadmill or doing a really long session? Where does my mind go? How do I get through that process? Get through that 4-hour session or 2-hour run, or now being in the pool, nothing goes on up there, which sounds a bit strange.
It's like elevator music.
Yeah, pretty much. Daydreaming. I think I just focus on what I want to achieve. Daydream about being a better swimmer. I think how do I improve that? That is, my Achilles heel. It's the thing that's will let me down if I don't improve it. So I suppose I think about that.
Okay. Thank you, Chris, for sharing all this with us, your point of views, your mentality, the way you train or how you view training, the process.
No, thank you so much. No, it's been great.
I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. I hope you took something away from it. And if you did, or if you know someone that might enjoy this, please share it with them. If you've got any question or any feedback, the comment section is open. So please let us know. And in the meantime, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.